Have you ever been down to your very last dollar? The one coin standing between your child's needs and an empty night. Tonight, a single father stands at the checkout line, with nothing left but love for his little girl. And what happens next will leave you speechless. But what if that one moment of kindness in a grocery store was just the beginning? What if two strangers, one broke, one wealthy, discovered that their meeting wasn't chance, but destiny? Stay with me, because the bond that forms between them will change everything you thought you knew about family, love, and true wealth. Sometimes, the smallest decisions reveal the deepest truths of who we are. The grocery store buzzed with late evening shoppers, carts rattling against tiled floors, the faint hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence between hurried conversations. At the very end of the checkout line stood Daniel, a man in his early 30s, shoulders heavy as though life itself pressed down on them. His eyes carried the weight of sleepless nights, and in his hands, he clutched a small pack of diapers and a carton of milk, bare essentials that stood as symbols of his struggle. Daniel was a single father. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier, after a long battle with illness, leaving him to raise their baby girl, Emily, on his own. Every day since had been a mixture of love and exhaustion. Early mornings with bottles, long hours at construction jobs that barely paid, and endless worry about bills piling up on the kitchen counter. Tonight, he counted his crumpled bills 3 times before stepping into the checkout line. He had exactly $7 left. Enough for the diapers, the milk, and nothing more. The cashier's voice pulled him from his thoughts. That'll be $6.98. Daniel's hand shook as he handed over the last of his cash. For a brief moment, his heart clenched. What if he miscounted? What if he didn't have enough? But the register beeped, the drawer closed, and relief washed over him. He was broke. But at least his daughter would have what she needed for the night. Behind him, in the same line, stood a man dressed in a tailored navy suit. He was tall, polished, and intimidating in presence. To the average eye, he looked like everything Daniel was not: successful, confident, wealthy. His name was Michael Bennett, a CEO of a billion-dollar corporation, known in the business world for his ruthless decisions and unmatched drive. But as he watched Daniel nervously place the diapers into a plastic bag, something in his chest tightened. For years, Michael had built empires, chased profits, and buried himself in work. Yet, at the end of every board meeting and award ceremony, he returned to an empty penthouse apartment. No wife, no children. No one waiting at the dinner table. His success came with silence, and though he had money, he lacked the warmth Daniel carried in his tired eyes. The love of a child depending on him. The cashier announced, "Next." Daniel turned to leave, but his shoe caught the edge of the mat, and the bag nearly slipped from his hands. Michael reached out instinctively, steadying him. Their eyes met briefly. 2 worlds colliding. Daniel muttered, "Thanks," embarrassed, eager to escape unnoticed. But before he could step away, Michael spoke. "Wait," the CEO said softly, his tone unlike the commanding voice his employees knew. "I'll take them all." Daniel frowned, confused. "Take what?" Michael gestured to the shelves behind the counter stacked with diapers. "All of them. And everything else your daughter might need." The line went silent. The cashier blinked. Shoppers froze mid-step, sensing something unusual unfolding. Daniel's lips parted, but words failed. Pride battled desperation inside him. "Sir, I can't let you do that. I don't even know you." Michael smiled faintly, though his eyes betrayed a loneliness he couldn't hide. "Maybe you don't know me, but I know what it feels like to lose everything that matters. Money, I have. Family, I don't. Let me do this. Not because you need it, but because I do." And in that strange, vulnerable moment, 2 lives intersected. One broke, one wealthy, both incomplete. Daniel hesitated, but the sincerity in Michael's voice disarmed him. For the first time in years, someone wasn't looking at him with pity or judgment. Just humanity. Against every instinct telling him to walk away, he allowed Michael to pay. The CEO instructed the cashier to load a cart with supplies. Diapers, formula, baby wipes, food, even small toys. When Daniel saw the total climb past hundreds of dollars, shame and gratitude blurred together, and tears pricked his eyes. "Why?" Daniel whispered, almost to himself. Michael paused before answering. "Because I spent my whole life buying things that never filled the emptiness inside. Tonight, I saw something money can't buy. A father fighting for his child. That's real wealth. And I guess I needed to be reminded of that." What began as a single act of kindness grew into an unexpected friendship. Michael offered Daniel a ride home, and along the way, he met little Emily, a giggling bundle of light who reached her tiny hands toward the stranger in the expensive suit. Something inside Michael softened at her touch. A crack in the wall he had built around his heart. Weeks turned into months. Michael checked in often, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes just stopping by after long days of work. He learned how to hold a baby bottle, how to make Emily laugh, how to listen without rushing. Daniel, in turn, shared pieces of his struggle. The grief of losing his wife. The guilt of not being enough, the small victories of fatherhood. Slowly, the bond between the lonely CEO and the broke single dad became more than charity. It became family. Michael found himself looking forward to evenings at Daniel's small apartment more than any corporate gala. For the first time, his success wasn't measured in numbers, but in the joy of watching Emily take her first steps or hearing Daniel laugh freely after so many years of hardship. The turning point came one quiet night when Michael admitted, "Daniel, I've spent decades chasing things that don't matter. And yet, the only time I've truly felt alive is right here, with you two. Maybe what I needed all along wasn't more, but less. Less walls, less fear, less loneliness." Daniel looked at him, eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved us that night in the store. But more than that, you reminded me that kindness still exists. I can never repay you." Michael shook his head. "You already have. You gave me something money couldn't buy. A family, even if it isn't by blood." The years later, Emily would grow up never remembering the night her father almost couldn't afford diapers. Instead, she would remember two men. One who gave his all despite having nothing, and one who gave what he had despite having everything. And together, their story whispered a message to everyone who heard it. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't in the dollars we keep, but in the love we give. Life's challenges may strip us down to our last dollar, but kindness, whether given or received, can change destinies. No matter how broken, tired, or lonely you feel, remember one act of compassion can connect strangers, heal wounds, and build families where none existed before.